So this episode, we want to talk a little bit about business globally. And it's great to live abroad. We also have to put food on the table. And what does that actually look like and mean? For me, I came to my first expat assignment, which was back in 2009, with my job. Then I had the opportunity to come to my second expat assignment. And I will say the biggest thing that folks need to understand and know, and Giselle, I think you've experienced this as well, is that, yeah, you have to have technical skills anywhere you go. Any country that you're living in, even if you're working locally. But what's different about being successful globally is having, and I hate the word soft skills, to be honest, because they're not soft, they're actually the harder ones.
That's so true, yeah.
To pick up. But what you hear people say as soft skills, that's what makes or breaks you globally. So what does that mean? We're going to talk a little bit in this episode about that. It is about emotional intelligence. It's about cultural competence. It's about being agile and flexible. It's about being able to communicate with different communication styles. It's about being curious. It's about taking complexity and simplifying it. And these are the skills that create global business leaders that are able to get that opportunity to really thrive in what would be an international environment. So Gisela, I would love for us to talk a little bit about your unique experience, which is different than mine, right? Living
Totally.
abroad. Because your experience has been, in some countries you've been able to work, and some countries you haven't been. So I'd love for you to just share a little bit about the challenges that you've had, how you've overcome them, and then where you're at now in your career journey.
Mm-hmm. So first, I would like to talk about a bit of the motivation. Like if you think about that, like it's okay, what motivates you to have a global career? So to me, in my case, it just kind of evolved very organically. So as you might know, so I moved from Mexico first to Germany. There, because I got back then I got married, so I was always able to work. I didn't need to, like try to get a work permit whatsoever. So it was easier. To start. First challenge, of course, was the language, but then like once I mastered that, and then of course together with English, then it was easier to me to land on my first corporate job. I always say, and I always used to say to all of my like expat friends or people that I know in my network is, you need one person who gives you a chance abroad. Like you just need like these first steps, this first opportunity, and that opportunity might not be like your dream job at first, but you need to start somewhere, right? Like you need just to give that step out of the comfort zone and say, I need to start here. And once you get that, from there, it's way easier to navigate or just to also learn, okay, what area am I want to develop, or do I want to stay in the same industry or not? So just going back to my motivation, it was always like, I am representing not only myself, but also like my country, my whole background, my community. So to me, it was always very important that okay, I'm not just moving abroad and then maybe in my personal case, just because, I got married whatsoever. So I was always very, very much like eager to fulfill my career goals that I had. Yeah. So that to my motivation. But then, of course, challenges, they also come with that. And when I moved to South Africa, so I spent 3 years in South Africa as an expat because of my husband's job, as you know, of course. The challenge there was I was really not able to work officially just because of the visa, right? Like just per household, just one person gets a work visa. So at first, at the beginning, it was a bit like, how do you say, disheartening, or I really wanted to. So
I'm sure you're like, what am I gonna do?
yeah, so you're first thinking, and then of course, okay, my kids were very little at that time, so I just like asked for a maternity leave.
Yes.
The thing is, okay, I was not officially able to work. However, what I think is very important is to never lose sight of what you want to do. So I had, yes, maybe 3 years of like this classic office job.
Yeah.
But like I was always trying to remember like my goals and have them very clear. Like, for example, like I just try to improve the language. So at the beginning, I even had like even though I always work like in business English, it was still different to me, like to maintain conversations about different topics. So that was one of the things. Another one would be like, okay, I really wanted to expand my skills in marketing. So that's what I do, like digital marketing and then international marketing. So okay, I did some courses with the University of Cape Town, things like that. Some side projects as well with Germany. So just to expand a bit this mindset of, okay, I am not allowed to work in this country where I am currently, like right now, but that doesn't mean I can't work for my previous country, or just always try to find a way.
Exactly.
Because then time passes, time goes by, and at the end, coming to this transition that I experienced was like, okay, I knew I'm gonna go back to Germany. So
eventually, right?
yes, eventually I'm gonna go back, whether it's like after 2 years, after 3 years, I wasn't sure, but I always knew that I wanna like pick up my career. So yeah, to me that was always something that I had in mind. I even had the opportunity to have a career coach, and to me that was a very good approach, just to to remember like who I am, where I'm coming from, and what do I offer, and also how to expand my skill set. And exactly what you say, like it's not just about these technical skills, even though I also did that with these courses with the university, but it goes way beyond that. And he was able to like tell me that, to just give me always this message like, you know what, like you are now way more adaptable, you're flexible, like you can discuss topics across different like communities, people, business. So just use that to leverage your own.
And you can sell yourself differently because of that, like it's a marketing, right? Because of that experience.
Absolutely. So to me, that was like the biggest mind shift. And by the time I started to have interviews again, it was super interesting because I never felt for a second that I was not able to fulfill whatever position I was applying for. Like on the opposite, I was like, look at me, like I was abroad, I was able to do this and that. Like also like, like not everyone knows the amount of work, project management and logistics move with family.
What that
right?
takes.
Like what it takes. So it's like not for the weak. I always say that.
For the weak-hearted.
So and be able to do that, and like just to be able to feel at home outside of your comfort zone. Like I pretty much believe those are very important skills, whether they are soft or not. This is another thing, but those are very, very important.
So I love that, Gisela, because what that actually brings up for me is it just shows the dynamic differences, right, in experiences, whether you're moving to a country and you can work or you can't work, which you've had both experiences. And for myself, coming to a country because I had to come and immediately like jump into, the business and the work, and kind of what resources are needed and the networks that are needed to be able to do that effectively. And so for me, one, you hit the nail on the head when you just talked about how do you leverage your time abroad?
Absolutely.
Right? And for me, first of all, was getting to know people, right? So even in my work, how am I getting to know people? Asking, being curious, just like you said in your interview, they were really curious about your experience, is coming with that curiosity. And I think it's also being really clear around from a business perspective, just like you mentioned, and also if you're coming even for a job, is what do you want to get out of this?
Yes, exactly. What's your takeaway?
What's your takeaway? And what are your goals? And even writing them out. So a great tip that I try to do is I do SMART goals. So
Absolutely.
SMART stands for be specific, have your goals be measurable, make sure they're attainable, that they're realistic, and that they're time
And
bound.
time bound. Mhm.
And if you have SMART goals, then you're driving towards something all the time. There's a reason and a purpose, right, for what you're doing.
That's
in the
super
long
important
game.
because I think many people they might do that at work, of course, because
Yeah.
you get certain goals that you need to achieve. But that's also super important, like tip for your private life and for your own development.
Exactly.
To not forget about that. To always be able to track, adapt, and do again.
Exactly. And then it's, I talk a lot to my clients about this now in my work, which is, what do you want to be doing differently?
Yeah.
So one thing I thought about coming into this experience is, what do I want to be doing differently? How do I want to be showing up differently when I leave this amazing experience?
Oh, sure.
And so, for me, one, that was this opportunity to do this podcast. Had nothing to do with my actual job, but it's part of my career, right? We'll talk a little bit more in a future podcast, so stay tuned, around branding. But it's part of my brand. It's part of my career, right? It's part of who I want to be.
It's a bit of a blend because it's who you are as a person and
Yeah.
what these experiences that have shaped you, but also like it kind of connects with your international career and experiences. So it's a bit of a blending situation there.
Definitely. And I think the other thing that was really important in terms of resources and networks for me coming in and jumping into a job and trying to figure all of it out is leveraging people who have done this before. So actually reaching out, right, to other folks that have been expats before. What worked? What should I be thinking about? What should I be doing differently? How can I ensure that I can be successful in this role? How do I support my family? And so I think sometimes as females, we don't reach out, and we should.
That's true. Or maybe we just do it a bit less.
Yeah.
But how do you do it? Like, do you have like a concrete example of how you started at the beginning, like to build your network? Like, did you just started like kind of knocking doors, or like just asking colleagues, or I don't know? I'm curious.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. Let me think back to when I started. I would say the first thing I started with is, I think that I scheduled a coffee or lunch with everyone in my current organization at that time that was an expat at some point in time for that organization.
Okay, that
And-
opens up probably
Yeah.
like to a bunch of possibilities and options or different
Exactly.
ways of doing things.
Exactly. And whether they were in the US at the time and had previously done an assignment, or whether they were on assignment, and whether I knew them or not, sent them an
Okay.
email and said, I have this opportunity. Would you be willing to have a virtual coffee or a real coffee in person or
Yeah.
lunch just to share your experience? And what I've learned, and I think is really important, is that people want to help.
Yes,
For the
that's
most
true.
part, people want to help. And I think that sometimes I know.
Especially if they have experienced the same, like they wanna
Exactly.
like kind of like like help you because they know how it is.
Exactly. And they want to give you advice, right? And I think sometimes people feel like, and especially women, like we don't want to bother them, or, oh, I don't
true.
know,
Yeah.
But ask. get
Gotta be a bit
advice.
aggressive on that way, right? I
Yeah,
can only imagine, like for some people, might be like more challenging to do that.
of
It has
course,
to do with personality,
for
and
sure.
maybe for some others, it's like, you know what, let's do it. But it's definitely worth it, right? Like it's definitely
100%.
worth a try to do that.
100%. 100%. And for me, for my career, is, came to South Africa with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, leading HR for Africa. And then made the decision when I transitioned from the foundation to start my own consulting firm, Emergent Inquiry Consulting. And the experience that I was able to get from my time with the Gates Foundation and my roles previous, and the network that I had there, and the intentionality that I personally said I want to put on this journey has allowed me to step into this new career opportunity and be successful in it.
Right, probably. Like, what do you say if you haven't like had these like steps before,
Yeah,
like networking, knowing the right people, the experience abroad? Probably you wouldn't have like even like started your own
exactly.
business. Can it be?
Exactly. And like being open to, I love this phrase of relearning. So
Yeah,
what I did previously didn't necessarily work when I came to Joburg to work and to lead HR across the entire continent
just works
of 54
differently.
countries, right? And so me being open to being wrong and to failing and to getting feedback and to relearning, like that's what makes, in my opinion, global careers
Yeah, that's amazing.
successful.
Just to be able to see that, also to recognize that and to embrace it, right? It's not bad. Like only with that, with those experiences, that you can reach growth and
Exactly.
therefore success. That's amazing. I
Yes,
love
this is
it.
why I love our conversations. So Gisela, in terms of our takeaways, right, that we want to leave our listeners with, I would say for me, what I kind of heard from the conversation, I'd love to hear from you as well. What I heard from the conversation is one, don't let whatever status you have with your visa keep you from continuing on your career goals, whether they're going to be in a global setting or when you're back home. There's always an opportunity to be intentional about that, and you had such good examples on that.
Yes.
The other thing that stood out to me is use your voice, right? Tell people
Yeah.
what you're interested in. So the fact, Gisela, that you went and got a certificate, took some classes, that you were able to do some work while you were here in Germany, right? That folks here knew what you were an expert at around marketing, right?
Yes.
And same for myself around the fact that this is what I'm really interested in. I do HR, I do organization development. So when I stepped out on my own, in my consulting firm, I then had the network because I had folks that knew what my expertise was. So use your voice. And then the last thing for me that resonated is the network, right? Like
Absolutely.
leverage your network, reach out. You can reach out to us. We would be more than
Sure.
happy to answer any questions. But we're not on these journeys by ourselves, right? It's a whole community here to support.
Yeah, it
But
takes
I'd
a
love to
whole.
hear, yeah, from
And
you.
also for me, the biggest takeaway is definitely like start before you plan to move, or before you plan to, like have your global career.
Yeah.
Just because earlier you start, the better you're going to be able to adapt or to learn, or just to shift if needed. Like I just start before learning the language if you have to, or start before like maybe shifting your communication from maybe only your own language, but like then maybe you want to reach a global LinkedIn community, right? So you might be willing to change that to English, probably, or depending where are you going to. Just start thinking up front and just before the actual assignment or the actual job position abroad. And that's to me like the biggest takeaway. And probably also like just be mindful of not losing sight. Okay, I might not be able to do it right now, but like I want to definitely do it in 1-2 years whatsoever. So just prepare for that accordingly. So thank you so much for listening to us. This is a topic we're very passionate about, but please stay tuned for the next one because we're going to talk about our personal branding. What does it mean that on a global setting? So thriving globally. Thank you so much, and don't forget to stay tuned. And what else? I need to subscribe, right?
Definitely.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our podcast, Meeting in the Middle. This is the last episode. This is all about building our global personal brand. So, for me, it's been a whole process from starting in Mexico with a local personal brand, if I can tell it that way, to creating a global personal brand that can cater to different cultures, different languages, and different business industries.